Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
Good morning, everyone. It is Friday, May 3rd, 2024. My name is John Pieranunzi, and this is the opening swing, non-farm payroll edition. Let's begin today, as we always do, with our news. That's not the right window. This one. And I think we know where this is going today. Not a lot out of Europe. European indices are slightly higher. No major numbers. And the big one, of course, is our 8:30 data out of the US. The employment situation, non-farm payroll, hourly earnings, unemployment rate. The big one. A little later at 9:45, we have PMI composite final and ISM at 10. These are significant numbers. So we have the big one, then a few others, and then the data quiets down into the end of the week. Let's take a look at our daily chart. This is our daily full session candles of the S&P 500. This is a balance area that we're getting to know very well. We have our low that was put in on news, and we've responded higher from that low with a series of higher lows. We had our 26s, which was a key level. We were able to breach the 26s and push this range up to the 5150s, which is very key, before reverting lower, but still maintaining these higher lows. Coming into yesterday, I was really looking for an inside day. And what we got was actually a poke at the lows and then reversion, which was pretty much in the spirit of the inside day, but not exactly. But the big thing to keep in mind from this chart for me is that we appear to have found our buyers and are retracing higher, looking for our sellers. Now, we may have found our sellers at this price, but we don't know. We're still maintaining this very weak upward trajectory, which is vulnerable. By vulnerable, I mean it could be easily broken by taking out this low and kind of just reiterating balance in this area. If we take out this low at 22s, it kind of reiterates balance. If we're able to take out this high, then it kind of bolsters the idea that buyers are making progress. It would demonstrate that the buyers are making progress. Another thing I want to mention about this whole area, we know what's going on. We see that there's support, and support's moving up. So that's what we can see demonstrated here. We also know that we have resistance that's coming in at the 26s and seems to have shut off the buying so far at the 50s. So what's to be aware of there is we know where the resistance is, we know where the support has been coming in. The area in between can be more random. It can be more random to trade. Like the swings, this is a pretty wide area. The swings can be big, and it can be really good trading if you're into it, but it can be more difficult for something like continuation. Like if you're expecting a trend, you're expecting, oh, we're going to break the prior day's low and just run. Those are a little bit more, that can be more difficult because we can see big swings that don't go anywhere. That's why I kind of highlight areas of prior fights, because I'm looking for those areas to be reacted to and to see one side or another kind of take control. Like I had mentioned yesterday, if we get the break of the prior day's low, we'd want to see a break. We'd want to see some retests that really show us that selling is there before we look to trade for the 22s, and we didn't get that at all. We got a test and a rejection. So keep in mind that there's a lot that wants to keep us within this range right now. It doesn't mean we don't rip away from it today, but there's a lot of kind of gravity pulling us into this area as of now. So let's move on to some lower time frame charts. This is a 2-hour chart, which I kind of went up to just to show the whole area that we've been trading in. But this is, again, I just want to reiterate some of what we've seen outside of our current range, which was from yesterday. But we have this area, right below the millennium figure, which is really where the support kind of came in and rejected prices for higher. So this is a key area on retests. Beneath it, we have these 22s, which are a swing low. This is a very key. This is the next target should we start to break. It's a very important target. And then above, we obviously have our 26s, which is key. And this structure above, which may be rejection, it's possible. We don't know until it gets retested. But our balance high is up here where we touched the 5150s and got up to the 54s. I have this area from 35 to 45 quarter as an important area. Our naked VPOC, there's a naked VPOC in there at 36 quarter, which is the next key area. So what we really have to keep in mind here is, like I said, for me, the key areas, like the key range edges, I would not be surprised to see us push through the prior day's high, continue up to take the 36s, and even push into the 54s. But my expectation on tests of the extremes by default will be reversion. How will I know if there's not reversion or if we have a chance of continuing? Kind of like what I mentioned down here. What would I be looking for? I'd be looking for us to break, retest, continue. That's generally what I'm looking for. Or a break, a hold, and then continuation. That's what I'm looking for. But so that's what I'll be looking for on tests of the edges. If we don't get that, I'm going to expect us to revert. Let's move on to a smaller time frame chart. Okay, here we are at our PNF chart. And let's talk about some things that may happen today as well. I'm going to mention on a day with non-farm payroll, the price action could be very random. We could get SOC where price just kind of moves away. And I'll generally just speak about how I look at potential SOC inducing releases. The most important thing I'm looking for on a release like NFP is, are we immediately directional? Do we get the number and we have an immediate directional move away that is sustained? That's key, and we leave an SOC. If we do that, then I'm looking for us to progress to the next target. Not to say I trade immediately on the number. I mean, non-farm, when I was an interest rate, I used to be an interest rate scalper, and this was like through the early 2000s into the teens. NFP was the biggest number of the month. Like, it was, you'd expect big things. Now, not so much for me. I'm less of like a news kind of guy. Balance trader from CT, he's a big time news guy. But for me, I'm a little bit less. I'll see if we have a strong directional move. Like I said, I'll look to trade it. If we don't, if we just move back and forth across the SOC, then I'll usually wait to see something develop. But anyway, so looking at this, key areas here, we have this low, this slightly lower low. So I'll tell you that, first off, broadly, if we have a low, lower low, if we have any kind of a push lower off of the number that cannot take this low, this is 36 quarter, if any kind of a push into this area that can't take this low, I will expect it to revert higher back into this range because with any kind of a not take of this low. Now, alternatively, if we might kind of do that, and then if we get any kind of a, like I said, a break, retest, continue, I'm looking for 22s. Or if we get something like a break, tight hold, continue, I'm looking for 22s. If we get the 22s and we try back and we cannot, then I'm open to the 06s and 03s, which is a naked weekly settlement. This will already be 2 volasig down, so be aware. I'm just talking about what could happen at this range. So if we get a lower low versus this, and that versus yesterday's RTH low, and we cannot return back into this range, we're looking for 22s. If we continue, I'm looking for potentially 06s, 03 quarters, this area. That's what I'm looking for. And I would expect support on the initial test. Could that be wrong? That could totally be wrong. And we could end up just running off into the weekend if the number comes out weird. But however, this is what I'm looking for on the break of this range. High or low, I'm expecting reversion. We break, I'm looking for the retest or a hold for continue to the 22s. If the 22s don't provide any support, then we're looking for 06s, 03 quarters. That's what I'm looking for. That'd be a lot of downside today, so just be aware. I'm most expecting this to hold, but we could definitely be wrong, especially today. So that's what I'm looking for on that edge of the range. What about the higher edge of the range? It's a little more interesting. So on the higher edge of the range, we have our RTH high from yesterday. Then we have this area that we put in this structure above the 26s, which could be rejection. Could be, doesn't have to be. But the key here, the key price here, our key prices, 13s, yesterday's high. Above that, we have the 26s. And then we have the 36 quarters, which is a naked POC. And then we have the big one, the double TPO high, which is at 41 quarter. This one is a big one, for me. So if we get a push above yesterday's high and it is sustained, like we get into the 26s, we're able to hold, fall back, or continue higher, then I will look for 36s. 36s would be the next one. If we get 36s and hold, then I'm looking for the double TPO high. If we test that double TPO high at 41.5, how it happens will be important for me. If we test a couple ticks and fall back and can't get above, then it's game over. I'm looking for a reversion, likely to 26s and potentially 13s. If we test and reject quickly with little trading above that high or some type of blow off. So let's do that again. If we get, like I said, if we if we get a lower high versus 46s and fall back into range below 26s, I'm looking for a reversion. If we get a lower high versus this double TPO high, 41s. Lower high that cannot test, I'm looking for a reversion to retest yesterday's high, 26s, or retest 26s, potentially yesterday's high, 13s, and fall back if we can't test 41s. If we do test 41s, but it's very weak, then I'll expect I'll expect likely for us to fall back and just get back into this mess. If we test and cannot hold, cannot see like more lifting as we breach the 41s. Like I want to see us breach the 41 halves, and I want to see continued lifting. I want to see the market try to fall back and just keep going higher. If we get anything but that, I will expect us to revert. Now, if we do get that, if we do get this push up, it takes the 26s, gets to the 36s, holds, breaks through 41 halves with strong buying, pulls back, generally holds this whole area. It could just hold the 41s, or we could get kind of a deeper pullback that gets back above the 41s. Regardless of how it happens, I want to see traders buying above 41s. If I'm going to trade the long here, I want to see people buying above 41s aggressively. If they're buying above 41s, we're looking for 54s. And if they're still buying, then we're looking for 67s. Again, this is above 1 vol sigma up. So 41s, 41 halves, key price. If we get above that with some authority, then we're looking for 54s. And if the buyers are still going after it, we're looking for 67s. If we get 67s and we cannot shut off the price, I would mostly just look for a drift higher, because my next real key target is until the 13 quarters, 52 13 quarters, which is somewhere up here, that we're getting above 2 vol, which is more than I would reasonably expect. Like if the longs are good, if aggressive longs are good out here, the targets I want to look at, maybe 41s if I can trade for the 41s, definitely 54s if we can break 41s, and if we're still showing the ability to move above 54, then I'll be looking for 67s. So that's what I'm thinking on pushes outside of this range. If we don't get outside of this range, big possibility, or if we don't get outside of this range early, then what I would look for is potential tests, potential attempts at at these important levels that revert on either side. An attempt, they can't do it, and revert. If we get that, if we get tests of either side that can't do anything, I would expect that to be with pretty wide swings early that then kind of quiets down into the remainder of the day and does nothing. Something like that. If we get that, there will probably be some okay volatile trading early, trading for statistics like the overnight stat, the IB stat, prior settled, things like that. I think there will be trades like that, probably some whippy volatility early to trade that, but then if we're not breaking this range, I would expect it to quiet down at some point. Quiet down somewhere within here. This is very broad, but I mean, there's not a lot to go on except for our LVN from yesterday, which is the most significant thing, and then this node within here, the 50s. If we if we're staying within this range and we get this test, I would then expect the 50s to kind of firm up, and then likewise with the 26s would sort of firm up. So that would so that would look like kind of maybe some type of test, doesn't get to the 41s, gets back into range. Likewise, could be some type of test, tries at the LVN, pushes low, higher low, and then back in. So getting either of those tests, then I'm expecting that to mean that OTF has not made a decision and we're going to stay here. So that's what I'm thinking for today. Hopefully that helps. Again, the big emphasis today is, do we break these ranges? If so, we know the targets. If we do not, then I'm going to expect us to revert and likely tighten into the afternoon. Like a busy morning, then just tighten up and really nothing's done. The surprise scenario would be test, tighten, and then surprise runoff in either direction at the end of the week. That could happen. I probably won't trade that. Probably won't be here for that, but you should be aware of it. But anyway, we're going to wrap it here today because it's getting late. Numbers 30 minutes away, 35 minutes away. About that, you guys might not see this until the number comes out. I understand that's not ideal. This is something we're actively working on, so just be aware that we know that that's something, and how these videos get delivered, the quality they do, and the content. We're working on all of that, so be aware. But I'll just wrap it here today and wish you all the best of luck. As always, I hope you have a fantastic day today. I hope that you're able to trade your plan. I hope that it works out for you. And of course, I hope that you can make someone else smile today, because that's really how it's really how the winners happen. But anyway, it's NFP day. Let's get out there and clock some ticks, guys. Let's do it. Have a great one. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.